Power 93.7 WBLK. I'm Yasmin Young inside the 2 to 6 takeover. If you visit at our website recently, if you've been watching the news, even checking social media, you know that there seems to be a shortage, or what appears to be a shortage, of meat, or a limitation that has been placed on meat in the grocery store. There's also limits that you might see as you're doing your shopping on rice or canned goods and certain items, as stores try to tamper down on people, just pandemic shopping is what we'll call it, like we saw with toilet paper. And I have the pleasure of having an expert on this, Steve Groff. He's a farmer. He is a cover crop expert and the author of the upcoming book, The Future Proof Farm. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on today.
So, Steve, I know some people, are freaking out because they are limited on the packages of meat that they're able to buy. Mm-hmm. They're limited on grains, on those staple items, frozen vegetables, even still, a month and a half, almost 2 months mm-hmm. into the pandemic. So mm-hmm. what are your insights and predictions on this?
Well, first of all, it's helpful to understand why this is happening, and if you really follow the news, you may know, but it's all about the supply chain. There is plenty of animals, plenty of chickens, plenty of meat out there, and the sad part is there's actually situations where some of these animals are actually being destroyed because of the supply chain being interrupted. And it has all to do with the workers, the human labor that is required in processing any kind of meat. This is not a mechanization process. It requires human labor. So we've had certain meat packing facilities that have had some COVID, and some people who have come down and gotten sick or have tested positive. And a month ago, when we were collectively a little bit unsure of what was going on, can you imagine that it certainly disincentivized people from going to work the next day when they found out one of their workmates or fellow employees got sick? So some plants had up to 40% shortage of labor, and in any kind of a processing facility, you just can't slow down 40%. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So that is the reason behind the meat shortage. There is plenty of meat around, but it's because of that is what is causing the shortage now. Because
it takes people to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And right now we know where we are with people because of, the lockdowns, yes. because of people being sick, people being maybe afraid, like you mentioned, yes. Afraid to go mm-hmm. into work. Now, is mm-hmm. there any maybe specific crop that might be devastated the most?
Well, in cropping, you kind of can apply the same principles. Any vegetable crop that requires human packaging. For instance, now a lot of our fresh vegetables would be coming from the south, and so any kind of like tomatoes require human harvesting, picking, sorting, packing, and so forth. And any of those type of vegetables, and I'm going to say there could be some shortages here and there. And as the season progresses here, it's likely that things are going to slowly improve. And that's one thing that we can say now that we couldn't predict just a month ago. So overall, I'm saying that I don't think there's going to be catastrophic shortages of food. I don't think that. But there will be shortages. So this is why don't panic. We don't need to do pandemic shopping, as you
coined. Where everybody's hoarding.
Right. And you may have to do without a few things for right now. That's okay. It will come back. And I think I want to give a very objective perspective on this, that where we're at here today now, there's hope. But yes, in the meantime, there probably will be some shortages of certain products. So that's I think I'm liking it to be the objective here right now.
Well, and Buffalo is a very urban city, urban area. Mm-hmm. How can urban farming be a part of the solution to something like this moving forward?
Well, it does bring up a lot of issues here that I have been in touch with as being a farmer. One thing I will say, and I'm a smaller farmer, so I'm not a large corporate operation, and our just-in-time food system has served us well, but it has faltered in this situation. So, and we don't know when we'll ever have an experience like this again. Hopefully, never. But we can't say never because we don't know. So in this context, being able to buy food from as close to the farm as possible, supporting your local farmers markets, your local farm stands, is a good idea. Now, as far as the urban sector and growing some vegetables, I mean, I've actually had people come to my farm from Manhattan with interested in knowing how to do rooftop gardens and windowsill gardens. So there's opportunity out there. There's a lot of roof space that could be available. Now, it is challenging, and that is not going to feed the whole city.
Right.
But anywhere we can help to spread out our food sourcing from is definitely going to be a step in the right direction. I think this pandemic has certainly caused people to rethink about how the food system is created that we've been relying on.
So your upcoming book, The Future-Proof Farm, say that 3 times fast.
Right.
When can we expect that out?
Going to be published around July. SteveGroff.com is where you can pre-order now. We have that set up. And it's really, the book is for 3 different types of people. It's for farmers that to tell them how to grow more nutritious food. It's for the people who eat food, which is all of us, to be able to say, you know what, I do care about where my food comes from, how it is grown, how nutritious it is, and it's a window into a farmer's life. And I share a lot of stories in the book, but then it kind of is all centered around some of the buyers, the people who buy from farmers and then sell retail, that they are now requiring a higher standard in food. It's not necessarily the organic standard, but it's more has to do with nutrient density, more nutritious food, and the way it was grown, more of a regenerative model. So that's just a quick synopsis of the book. It's a book that anybody who is interested in food, which a lot of us are, will find it a fascinating peek into the food system, but also into what goes on in the farm.
Steve, thank you so much for your insight and expertise and your time. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.